All right, so this is Eli Hoy interviewing Dr. Jörg Gsponer on the 12th of September 2025. So, first of all, thank you for doing this interview again.
It's a pleasure.
And why don't we start by what do you do for our department? What do you do here?
I'm the department head since February last year, 2024. And I'm full professor as well. I run a computational lab. We're actually located in Michael Smith Labs. And as all professors, we do research, and I also teach within the biochemistry department.
Excellent. And how did you become a professor? Like, what was your career path up to this point? And then how did you ascend to becoming the head of the department?
So I'm actually a physician by training. I went through medical school in Switzerland and then entered the Swiss MD PhD program because I was always interested in research, and at the time in Switzerland they thought they need more physicians who have an academic interest because they wanted new heads of departments. There you go, right? And so I was always interested in biophysics and protein biophysics, although most of my colleagues who entered the MD PhD program did more work with mice and genetics. So I did, at the same time, a bachelor in biochemistry and a PhD in biophysics. Then went back into clinic, did a little bit of residency, but then had a very nice offer from Cambridge, UK. Went to Cambridge, first in the chemistry department, then at the LMB. And then in 2009 got an offer to come to UBC at that time called Center for High Throughput Biology. I was looking for someone who was more in the computational space. And so I went there and I felt that it's a really great environment, lots of young, very energetic faculties. And so then I decided to come here in 2009. I moved through the ranks, and then beginning of last year, Leonard became head of the LSI, director of the LSI, and they were looking for a head. And I had a conversation with a couple of people. Thibault said, well, why don't you become head? You would be great as head. And then I talked with Scott and said, Scott, if you would become associate head, we could do that together and distribute the workload. That would be fantastic. And he agreed, and I thought, okay, then I'm going to run for it. And so I became head.
Excellent. And I've heard from other heads that this can be a very challenging job, especially dealing with interpersonal dynamics. Do you think your experience in clinical work has helped with that, or how do you find that's been an issue so far? How is adjusting to being head gone for you?
I think we have a pretty good department in that sense. We don't have major conflicts. We have people who are really stars in their field, but most of them are very much down to earth, and they don't behave themselves in a way that creates conflicts thus far, which is great. So there are always smaller things that happen. So nothing really major that can't be solved. There are obviously always a little bit of grievances here and there. That's normal in life. But I was just in a workshop, academic leadership workshop, where they teach us how to deal with conflicts. And we have now coaches that help us, train and go through those more conflictuous moments, and so yeah, it's pretty good so far, so good.
Excellent. Do you have any advice for future heads on how to deal with conflict or excel in this role? I know you haven't been in this role for a long time, but
I think the key is listening, right? And bring the people, if there's conflict between people, bringing them together and listen to each side and try to understand what motivates the people. Why do they feel that way? Did I feel misunderstood, not respected, and that creates anger? And then try to solve that and tell each other to treat each other with respect. Obviously, whether that's going to work out, that's another thing. But first listen and try to understand what's behind the grievance, what's behind the anger, and then try to solve that. Awesome. It's obviously easier said than done. That's for sure, right?
That sounds like a solid base to go off of.
Yeah.
I'm interested. How do you interpret department culture right now?
As I said before, if I look at some other departments that I've had a chance to look into, I think we're pretty fortunate because it's pretty collegial and people do their work and contribute to the department in terms of services and teaching. Everybody chips in, but then gets the freedom to do what they want, and we don't step on each other's toes. and there are no major conflict between fractions or groups, and so that makes the work pretty easy. So it's a good environment to work in.
Excellent. Nice. I'm interested, what are some of your fondest memories of the department?
Yeah, I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Various things. I think great memories are certainly coming with students, maybe not directly with the department, but when students are successful or when they graduate and you see how that makes them happy, I think that's a great feeling. And then also some events that we had, our previous Christmas parties with especially the younger faculty who were hired more or less at the same time. We ended out partying. That was really fun.
Do you think the department should do more of that, things like another retreat maybe?
Yeah, I think that's what is on the horizon. We want to plan that. That certainly helps to create that feeling of belonging. Obviously, because of COVID, we couldn't have it, and it's also a question of resources. I wish we had more resources to do this kind of stuff. I'm actually going to talk to the new dean in half an hour, and I think that's going to be something that I'm going to bring up, that is important, having those resources to do this kind of retreats and do things together, teamwork building. That would be fantastic, yes.
Awesome. What do you think has been what's your proudest contribution to the department? What do you think that you are personally the most fond of?
Obviously, I haven't been a department head for that long, but maybe as a faculty member, what I'm proudest of is certainly the courses that I designed or contributed to. At that time when I started, 304, a new course, and I think students really loved that. And more recently 306, which is more data science oriented, AI, protein engineering. Although the reception was not yet fantastic, but trying to do something new and innovative, I'm very happy about that. And then, as I said already before, being able to help students. Some students come back and ask for advice. Some say, oh, you opened my eyes in certain areas and that's where I want to go. Or helping students to get into very big schools. A couple of my former students went into Cambridge, Oxford and Harvard. That's fantastic. That's one of the best things that happened.
It sounds like a lot of your fondest memories revolve around students.
Yes.
Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's obviously their own research is great, but I would say having a great paper that lasts a couple of days and then it's a past. Okay. Impact on people lasts much longer. And they come back. I just was sitting for lunch with some former students who were in my lab 6-7 years ago, and one even 10 years. And when they come back and send you an email or give you a call, oh, can we go for lunch together? That's a great feeling because you have created connection and they tell you how their career goes and maybe you can still help them in one way. That's fantastic.
Right. Now, what do you feel like you've personally gotten out of our department, and how do you think it's changed you, either as a person or a scientist?
Yeah, I think what has changed most, I mean, I have learned a lot working especially with experimental labs, because when I was doing biochemistry and biophysics as a graduate student, it was very theoretical. And obviously you looked into more experimental labs as well, but now really collaborating with experimental lab allowed me to learn much more about different techniques. So I've grown my horizon significantly. That was great, right? Mm-hmm. And then dealing with people, right? Managing people, that's another thing that you learn when you're a PI, and especially now as a head. We come back to what you said before, how you deal with conflicts, things like that. And more recently, great thing was fundraising. Yeah. So with the development office, I've been involved in some fundraising related to AI and other fundraising, and that was great. I've learned a lot there, and it's a lot of fun. And we're involved in new fundraising now, and I really like that.
Could you expand on the fundraising aspect of it?
Well, it's about having some ideas where we would like to go and where we think that's important to do investments. And then the development office is very good at targeting people who they know they would like to support initiatives. But it's our job to figure out, okay, what is the next big thing, or what's the thing we would like to invest in, maybe to support students, change our teaching, or have new faculty, and then go to them and say, okay, look, that's our idea. Can we find someone who would help us make that reality, right? And that was happening, or is happening in the AI space, and I enjoy that very much, talking to the donor and come up with ideas and telling them, well, what can we do if you give us money? How can we change the educational research landscape or the healthcare landscape with the money you can give us? And that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, innovation is like why we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly,
So,
yes.
Totally. Are there now, sorry, remind me, how long have you been in the department for? What did you...
I joined UBC in 2009, so 16 years.
Okay.
And I joined the department right away. I was hired by Center for High Throughput Biology, which is in the MSL, or integrated in MSL, but I needed a home department, and the home department has been since the beginning biochemistry.
I see. This might be a bit more philosophical, but how do you think the department has stayed consistent throughout those years? And do you think there are any like core values of the department which you wish would remain consistent?
Yeah, I think this collegiality aspect, that people really respect each other, treat each other with respect, and they all chip in, they all contribute. I think that's a consistent value. I've seen that right from the start. And so we don't have those major conflicts. I think that's great and continues to be great, right?
How do you think we can keep promoting that in the years to come? Because I know some departments can fall into more conflict if it's not...
I think it's the way you choose faculty and the culture that you have. You were talking about retreats. That's going to be an important thing, that you from time to time come together and have also frank discussions if things are not going according to plan, right? Mm-hmm. That you create a forum where people can talk to each other, right? And then also who you hire. When you hire new faculty, that you figure out, is that really a fit? Is it not only scientifically a fit, but also as a person, right? Would they fit? Do we have a feeling that they will contribute, or just think about their own research and say, I don't care about the department, right? As long as I can do my thing. And so far we've been lucky to have always people who were willing to contribute, right?
I'm curious, if you were a grad student right now and you wanted to, at some point, join this department as a faculty member, how do you think they should focus their professional development in order to fit that mold?
Well, first, in order to become a faculty, you have to excel in terms of research. There's no way around it, right? And so probably you have to go into a very high-profile environment, one of the world's top universities, right? Or at least a lab that's really at the top. The problem there is, at least in my experience, many of those labs are really cutthroat, right? Because there are lots of people who want to succeed, who are very ambitious, and that can make you change your character. You become very, protective, and sometimes people become very mean towards others, right? And there you have to be careful to still keep some level of decency and not fall into the trap, okay, it's all about me and just my success, right? Mm-hmm. And so that would be the advice. Yeah, go to an environment that is very tough, right? And then you will see whether you can survive in that environment and produce good research. But still make sure that you keep this level of being able to collaborate, being able to share and work productively with others, which might not always be easy in such an environment, right? Because there might be people who are gonna steal your ideas and run with them. And so finding that right balance, that's gonna be the hard thing, but I think there's no way around it.
Right. And this might be a tricky follow-up, but do you have any advice for people who are trying to maintain that balance? Do you have any experience on that on a personal level?
It's hard. Maybe hang out with the right people.
Right. Same-minded
people, right? And distance yourself from those who you realize they're just about themselves and about their own research, and they're just shopping around and then they run with it, right?
Makes sense. Surround yourself with the people you want to be like.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
we're coming to the end of our questions. So, what kind of legacy do you think our department has created so far?
I think it's a legacy of excellence, that's for sure. I was just in the preparation of this symposium inviting other department heads and deans, and some of them sent me an email and said, sorry, I cannot come, but you're really the head of a fantastic department. Kind of jealous of you, the other department heads. And I think that reflects the fact that they see this is a good department, it works well, collegial, but also the scientific output is very good. It has been good over the years. Obviously, we always talk about Mike Smith and Corona, right, the Nobel Prizes. But even now, we have stellar scientists who are up at that level, right, who could get the Nobel Prize, right? We know that. And so that's fantastic, and people are aware of that within the faculty and across the campus.
Right. And that leads into the final question, which I think is, you have an acute amount of control over, which is where do you think the department should focus its efforts on in the next 25 years? Where do you think the department should go within that space of time?
Yeah, I thought about that. The obvious thing to answer now is AI, right? That's unavoidable, it's gonna come. So I think in the immediate future we have to figure out how we can include AI in education and research. And we have some ideas how to do that and tap into initiatives that are available now across the campus, and especially in the Faculty of Medicine. So that, I think that's unavoidable and we should do that. The other thing is maybe a little bit more wishful thinking, but I feel it would be great to have something where especially young faculty can more go after transformative research. What I mean with that is we all have to produce research so that we get new grants and then produce new research. So there's the danger to be a little bit incremental and not transformative. And for example, when I've been at the LMB in Cambridge, their mandate is really to give people 5-10 years money and say, we want you to do transformative research, right? And obviously some will succeed and others will fail. But at least you have that period during which you don't have to worry about support of your research. You can just go after the most creative thing you think is worthwhile pursuing, right? Mm-hmm. And that can be very transformative. Unfortunately, the funding landscape in Canada doesn't allow us to do that, right? But maybe we could work towards something, an endowment, ideally, or some structure that would allow particularly young faculty for 5-6 years just focus on these transformative ideas, right? And just do that. And that would be amazing if we could target that.
Yeah, definitely. That's like the heart of innovation.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So I think those are all the questions I have. Are there any closing statements you'd like to make for posterity or for the presentation?
Well, I hope that this department will be as successful as it has been in the last 75 years, and then we will have many more Nobel laureates, but also students who come out of our programs, who go out in the world and become stellar entrepreneurs and change the society for the better.
Awesome. Thank you so much.